Hey, Arcade family, we are really glad that you can be able to take some time out to join us because, after all, nothing's going on right now, really. I mean, there's a football game that nobody cares about, right?
Yep.
And there is a debate, and the thing that's different here is that nobody's mic is going to be muted here, all right? So we're all right. The whole purpose of why we're gathered tonight is because of this guy to my left, Cole Harper. And it's really great to have he and his wife, Heather, their little girl, Margot, with us. And we just want to take some time and get to know Cole. And this is the way we have to do it because of COVID. And it's kind of awkward a little bit, but you've texted and emailed some questions in, so we want to ask Cole those. And here's the reason why. The elders have voted unanimously to present Cole to the congregation for affirmation as an associate pastor for the adults. And this is part of that process. It's kind of hard to affirm someone you've never met before. And this is the best way to do that this side of Sunday. But on Sunday, Cole will be on the platform. You'll be able to hear him open God's word for us. And I think, Brian, you're going to have kind of a question response time with him on Sunday as well. And so be looking forward to that. But tonight, we just get a chance to be introduced to Cole a little bit, ask him some hardball questions, no softball questions.
All right.
Hardball questions.
Batter up.
And so question, before I hand it off to Brian, I've got one question for you.
Okay.
And this is an important question.
Okay.
Who are you voting for?
Oh, gosh.
No, I'm kidding. No, we don't want to know. We don't want to know.
Greg's mic, please.
Yeah, take the mute
Yes.
the mic, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Cole, it's really great to have you and
really
Heather
good to be
here. You had a chance to meet the staff a little bit today, and some of the elders. We're really grateful that you guys took the trip out.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
And Brian really does have some really great questions for you that, be nice. Don't make him cry. All right?
I didn't write them, so.
Okay, that's true.
not
That's
So
true.
who
really
you're gonna
me.
vote for thing, there was a wave of panic physically that concussed through
No,
my
see,
body.
that's where you say, I'm Canadian.
Right.
So, that's all right.
Yeah. No,
Well,
my
hey,
bad.
to start off, just to get everybody on the same page as where Craig and I are, having had the pleasure of spending time with you, tell us about like little Cole through big Cole. Like, where you been?
Yeah.
Who'd you go with? What'd you do?
Yep.
How you been? All that kind of stuff.
Fair
all right?
enough. So I am a product of the Midwest through and through.
Okay.
Born and raised in like north central Indiana, about 50 miles north of Indianapolis. And my dad got a new job right when I was in the middle of high school, right? And at that juncture, I had just gotten serious about my walk with Jesus. There's a persistent kid named Brandon Bogue who just would not shut up with about the gospel. Shout out to Brandon Bogue. Thank you. He was relentless. Always trying to get me to go to camp with him. Always trying to let me know, hey, there's a ride to church if you need it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he changed my life and my brother's. It was at that juncture I began to have close friends that I could confide in as family that weren't blood family. That's when I really discovered kind of the church and everything it is for us in that regard. You look at how Jesus can talk about how, when Peter asks, what's in it for us when we're following you? And Jesus is able to point to the brothers and sisters in the community of faith and call that their 100-fold reward, right? Mm-hmm. And I got to experience that firsthand because the borders of family had extended significantly as soon as I really connected with the local church. Mm-hmm. Up until that point, I was more close with my brother than anybody. He's my identical twin, and there is kind of a built-in kind of closeness there, and you don't have to overqualify and explain yourself all the time because he just kind of smells what you're stepping in, natively. But after we moved to Southern Indiana, I got involved with an Assembly of God church there, right? And involved in the youth group, had a few people approach me with the idea of, hey, have you thought about doing ministry vocationally? And I had a little bit. My plan was to go either into journalism or meteorology. I was really looking at Purdue's meteorology program. And there was just a last-minute pivot in high school where I just realized what I wanted to do more than anything was devote the time I would have devoted to a vocation to the kingdom as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't this idea that, doing a secular vocation was somehow worse. In fact, I think something I learned at that time was there is no such thing as a truly secular vocation. It's all sacred,
Yeah.
And I was thankful that I had a youth pastor that helped me break down that secular sacred divide to say, you're not choosing ministry to some form of godless work. You're choosing one kingdom form of work instead of another kingdom form of work. And at that point, I started looking for Bible colleges, but I didn't know really a lot of what was going on with Bible colleges. I thought it was a place where you went and they taught you how to pronounce like the really hard names of the Old Testament, Methuselah.
Which is true.
Which it does help.
Yeah.
But it was, I didn't even really know exactly what I was doing. And I think it was just the grace of God making sure I didn't just go somewhere like ridiculous, for school. So ended up doing a 4-year program at Boyce College. And then after that, paid my way through seminary, kind of on that super slow plan where you're not taking out any loans, but
Smart.
Yeah, it was just like this trade-off because I met my wife, in seminary, and we just wanted to get married, really quickly, and it was a matter of triaging spare income for tuition and robbing Peter to pay Paul and that kind of thing. But then got plugged into a great church during my seminary training, Sojourn Community Church. Learned just a ton about what it means to do life in community and just have that not be a cliche. Because there is a certain vogueness to that concept now that can drown out, I think, the centrality of the Christian life that's nested in that concept of community. So I got to go beyond the cliche in a way that was really helpful. I mean, I had been an elder at a church even before that, learning the nuts and bolts of how to train community group leaders and so forth. But I kind of hit a whole new level during my time at Sojourn. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Pastored in Minnesota for a bit and looking at California now.
All right.
So
We're glad you're looking at California.
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, I am too. It's going to be 9 next Monday.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So just a question that multiple people ask and it's kind of when you're hiring a pastor from somewhere like Minnesota to come out to California, you're kind of thinking like, well, what qualifies you to come hang out with us, kind of a thing. And people say, well, okay, what were your degrees in?
Yes.
And not that that's what qualifies you, but it's definitely interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
You're a very learned man. So what were your
the
degrees
theory
in?
goes. My bachelor's degree was just in leadership and church ministry, and then I did my master's in divinity at Southern Seminary, and really devoted as many of my electives as I could to Islamic studies. Oddly enough, it just kind of resonated with something kind of in me. I think just watching Europe go the way it is, it only pays to be conversant in some sense with Islam, at least nominally so. But for a while there, I also trained with some really cool guys and was looking at planting a church in Salt Lake City for a while. Ended up not going that route, but I did a lot of training with and then trained a lot of other guys for some, they called them interfaith dialogues, but they were really just spiritual, gospel conversations with Latter-day LDS Mormon folks at different Mormon universities in northern Utah. So MDiv was at Southern, and then the bachelor's was at Boyce, and I don't know. I've toyed with the idea of maybe doing, like a PhD or something one day, but we just had our first kid 7
And what's
weeks
her
ago.
name?
Her name is Margot.
Yes. She is adorable.
She's super sweet. She's super sweet.
What was the name that you were going to name her? Just tell us that, okay? Her last name is Harper, all right? And so what were you going to name her?
Yeah, so
We need to know this, Cole.
my wife really liked the name Pearl.
Okay.
But I remember thinking, there's no way I'm calling my kid Pearl Harper. It's not like her birthday was on December 7th, but
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. And their middle school would be a nightmare if there was a kid in there who pejoratively uses knowledge of history to tear her down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is a name that can't get her made fun of? And I know they'll find something anyway,
There you go.
Yeah.
but I've done my best,
Yeah.
and my conscience is clear.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you think has changed about your viewpoint of ministry since becoming a dad?
Huh. That is a good question. This is actually something I've been talking about with Heather and her with me a lot. We want to make sure we're not one of those dads that the kids end up hating them because of ministry. Does that make sense? I don't want to be an absentee father because I never had time for her because I was always on my phone. Does that make, you know what I mean? Because it's really easy to do that.
Yeah.
And of course I thought that before I had a kid. But it's more real when it's her set of eyes looking at you, you know? I'm the first glimpse, Heather and I are the first glimpse of Jesus and God's people that Margot's gonna have. And we want that to be somewhat symmetrical with God's fatherly care for her, you know? So I think I just feel that same concern now more in my bones than I did,
Yeah.
I guess, if that's helpful.
It's a little more real when they're actually here.
Oh, yeah, you have legitimate skin in the game, you know?
Yes, you
Put it
do.
politely.
So, okay, to get into ministry, you're going to come on staff as the pastor of adult ministries, and that means you'll be working with everybody from college and young adults to our senior saints in some capacity, either with staff who work with them or directly yourself.
Yes.
So tell me, what are you passionate about in ministry? What just, if you don't get to do this, you'll die?
That's cogently put. In no particular order, I like watching people who've been Christians for years suddenly discover the resources around them that are other people. It's not just a cliche that Christians in the West are hyper individualized. It's actually true. And I feel like a lot of believers are having these awakening moments to realize that something we're going to talk about on Sunday, God's grace to persevere in the faith once for all delivered to the saints, the grace needed to follow Jesus to the end, for him to hold you. He's faithful to do that, and he's nested a lot of that grace into the people around them. So the people of God are a grace to us that actually spur us forward in a way that wouldn't happen otherwise. And it's awesome to see that like sort of come alive to people to the point that they don't say, where are you right now? I'm at the church. They almost forever forget to associate the church with a building and start associating it with a people. You know, it's like they found a resource that's like been there the whole time. So watching the reality of and the resource of God's people come alive for folks is big. I think the second one, not in order, but I love seeing folks who were once intimidated about the Bible, like really eat it up. I think everyone, like as they're growing in their faith, they have these passages that they wig them out or they kind of turn over apple carts, and it's just like, I don't need that in my life right now. I have a lot of problems as it is. Thank you very much. Whether it's some of the hard sayings of Jesus that maybe folks in their life to that point have used in a way that was harder than he intended, right? I like seeing scriptures that once produced anxiety in people or confusion or bafflement, produced like life and vitality and like enthusiasm. You know, whether it's looking at, you did Craig, on one of your Instagram devotions one morning, talked about Jesus' really awkward conversation with the Gentile woman, you know? And it was neat how you unfolded that in such a way that we could see Jesus as the good guy he was, right? There's a lot gets lost in context that I like helping people see for the first time. So the lights sort of come on.
Love it.
I'd like to go back to your comment about individualistic American Christianity.
Yeah.
And I'm with you 100% on that. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles. I think a lot of people think that liberalism is the biggest obstacle in the American church. And it's an obstacle, not the biggest. I think the biggest is the individualistic aspects
really
of
well put.
Christianity.
Yeah.
How, Cole, your role is going to be, you will be directly somehow involved if you come here to Arcade in gather groups.
Yes.
And so your biggest obstacle will be that individualistic aspect of gather groups. So what? And obviously,
Sure.
you have zero tribal history here, so you don't know where we've been.
Absolutely.
You'll learn, but I mean, right now you don't. From what you know of the American church, and I'm thinking that Arcade probably is no different in that. How would you shepherd people through that to the other side of, I need Jesus, therefore I need you, kind of thing?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the first step in doing that is validating the emptiness that exists in Christians' lives that they had forgotten was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible to be so hungry that you forgot you were hungry. And there's a way of pointing to the spots in people's lives that have atrophied in spiritual growth, and even enthusiasm or vitality, and saying, that doesn't have to be like that, right? There is more grace given from God in the walk of faith than you're procuring or you're appropriating right now. So some of that work is, my job is to pay attention. It's to pay attention to where there's sparseness and dryness because of a lack of leveraging the community of faith in your own walk and sanctification, and saying, I know you hate that too. There's a better way that's not just better for you, it's better for me. Which I think the second point of that is to help people realize that it's not just that you need other people, it's that I need you. I'm your pastor and I need you. You look in Hebrews 10, when the writer is telling, his audience there, don't neglect, meeting together. The word he's using there, it's what was often used to describe like a Roman couple who would leave their infant in the wilderness to exposure. It's not just don't neglect them like you forgot your car keys. No, don't neglect them. Because they're not the only one losing out. It's also you, it's me. And so a lot of it is pleading with people to let me see how Jesus has equipped them to bring me forward and call different things of me and my sanctification forward. And people respond to, I think, the gravitas of, they are my plan, God's plan A for me. There isn't a plan B. And there's an implicit compliment of someone's necessity and their worthwhileness in being there if I'm pleading with them not to deprive people of their presence. A lot of it, of community guilt tripping is, don't you want to grow? Come on, let's just grow. If you don't get around people, you're not going to grow. It's like we're getting them to eat their broccoli. It's the same thing.
Well, I guess we're not going to do that campaign now. So,
no, no. But instead it's, yes, that's true. But the other component is stop depriving people of what Paul would refer to as your manifestation of the Spirit. That needs to sanctify other people's.
It's good.
That's where I would start.
Okay. I like that. As you know, we all know, to shepherd people through that is very difficult. It's worthwhile. It's worth the effort, but it can be very difficult. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. So, we don't just want to be excited about somebody becoming Arcadian, but it pumps us up when somebody says, I want to be Arcadian too. And you've definitely done that over the past few months, talking with me and with Craig and our elders and the staff team. So just in the most simple form, what excites you about coming out here to Arcade Church?
Oh my gosh. And I'm not just saying this, but I think the chemistry I've noticed on the staff makes me want to be a part of it more than I can articulate. You can do the hardest job in the world, but if you're with people that make you better and call the best parts of you forward, there's only gain in that. I mean, truly. So it's not just the idea that, oh, cool, it's California versus, like Minnesota or whatever. It's that I think this is the next step in my development, not just as a pastor, as a believer. This is something my wife and I talked about a lot, is just the chemistry feels right in such a way that there's grace to grow, there's grace to learn, and grace to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will pastor their whole life and not find that. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
I found it when I'm 35. Yeah, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not stupid enough to turn that down,
Amen.
if
Well,
that makes any sense.
at least he recognizes.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I love that answer. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know you're not just saying that,
No,
but
yeah.
we're excited about you coming out here.
Well, and to go along with that, Cole, is everybody that's worked in a staff, whether it's in a church or in a corporation,
Yeah.
they know what it's like to work in a place where it's absolute drudgery to come to. Even though they might like the task,
Yes.
it's the process.
Yes.
And Brian leads us very well. He leads the staff very well in making sure that we have this love and care for each other.
Yeah.
That I think the staff has caught that wave as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe that you would add to that you would contribute to the positive side of that chemistry.
I certainly hope so.
And so we got a taste of that today a little bit as we were, Cole and Heather and Margot showed up at our 10 o'clock staff meeting, and Pastor Dan did his thing that Pastor Dan does.
Yes, he did. It was
and
awesome.
we had a chance to get to know them a little bit better. And it sounded like a really good fit.
Thank
Just
you.
From where I was
That means a
sitting.
lot.
And so
That's really
it should be a lot of fun. Yeah.
So just a interesting question that I didn't expect anybody to send in. Maybe it was one of our staffers. I don't know who it was, but
Yeah.
is just, what do you bring to the Arcade family? I know how we would answer that, but it's kind of a self-inflating question, right? Which is hard to answer.
Oh
but
gosh,
it's
because
interesting.
you have to assume something about yourself that you hope is true,
Yeah, and then we'll find out in the coming
and then
months,
time
right?
bears it out, right? Something I suspect that I bring is I haven't forgotten what it's like to be new to the scriptures, new to the faith, and be the only one in the room that doesn't know what people are talking about when you say Romans 5:9. Wait, the numbers correspond to what?
Yeah.
Those were my most vivid experiences of churches sometimes in my early youth. It was just kind of, what are we talking about? And I always liked the guy in the room that remembered what it's like to step into the room for the first time. And I hope I can be that guy here. That's my hope. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes, I think that's fantastic.
Okay.
So just a little more kind of in the weeds of something. One of our middle schoolers texted in a question, and I would love for you to answer it. He just asked, how did he put it? How should I communicate God in my school?
How should I communicate God in my school? I would start by saying, look at those around you get along with most. Number one, figure out kind of who those are. Secondly, keep doing the things you do together. Thirdly, do those same things with the intention of making Jesus interesting to them. In other words, you don't even have to have all the right answers all the right times. That's not really how it works. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. In the book of Acts, they're called witnesses. And what do witnesses do? They just say what they've seen. They just tell what happened. Or you look at the way that Jesus healed the blind guy and the Pharisees are grilling him. And he goes, I don't know. All I know is I see now, and I was blind 45 minutes ago. You tell me. Just leverage the space you already have with them and use those with what we'd call gospel intentionality. Don't think of new ways to do it. Just use what you're doing now. And I think it's also helpful to remember that it's usually way more awkward for the person wanting to share Jesus than it is for the person you're sharing with. It's not as awkward for other people as you're worried it is. That's something it took me a while to learn. And if you can learn it in middle school, the better off, the more fun you're going to have. So that's what I would say.
Great.
You know, I totally would have never answered that question that way, but I love that answer. I wouldn't even thought of that. No, I thought, that is really,
Thank you.
that is really, really well said. I like that. That's
Thanks,
good.
man.
Very well said.
We're not done though. Okay, so nice try.
Yes, they can't get out of here very fast. Hey, just as a side note,
You noticed.
we've made you tell the story, 500 times in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We know there's some people at home just going like, "What's with the fake boot?" So, can you fill us in for those who are watching online? Just
Yes. So it looks like a prop you purchased from like Halloween Express.
Okay.
It's a big cast because I had shattered my heel. I fell off a ladder about 10 feet up, and I was wearing a pair of Vans. And Vans are like Chuck Taylor's in that they have no support of any kind. It's just corrugated cardboard in there. And so I fell off the ladder and landed solely on my left heel. And then when I hit, I just sort of felt it cave like an egg. Is the only way. It was hideous. And because I wasn't thinking, my phone is like, yards away from me. I'm screaming into the air. 2 old guys across the street hear me, come over, bring me my phone so I can call for help and all that stuff. And then I just had surgery on it to try to repair it and kind of rebuild it. And yeah, I probably won't be walking without the mobility scooter that's out of frame for another 18 months. It's funny, you always think of starting a new job and you always picture yourself walking into your office, actually walking on your own power.
Sure, yeah.
Not rolling in like R2, but it's, I'll tell you what, my wife has made this doable where it otherwise would have been nearly impossible because we're looking at selling a house. We're looking, just to do a number of transition points coming up, and we have a 7-week-old. And I'm basically useless, I was on crutches for a while. If you go somewhere to try to help, you're using your hands to help you stand. You know what I mean? You can't even carry anything. And my wife has just picked up the slack like I can't even believe. I mean, she's a force of nature. But yeah, let that be a lesson.
Don't fall off a ladder.
Don't fall off a ladder.
Don't wear Vans, one of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably the second
In case
one.
you fall off a ladder, don't wear Vans.
Yeah.
Man.
So that's the story with the
Well, I'm sorry that you've had to endure that. That's
Yes.
pretty gnarly. But
Yeah.
thing.
I'm glad that
It's worth it.
you pushed through and came out here. And grateful to Heather for
Oh, my
Yeah.
land.
her
Yeah.
contribution in
She's
that.
unreal. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very sweet lady. So, okay, so the Lord is blessing Arcade. This is a season where Craig and I talk to so many friends in the business, if you will,
Yes.
in ministry, who are just depressed, have no idea what the future is going to look like. It seems like their sheep have scattered and they can't even see them with a telescope anymore.
Yeah.
But for Arcade Church, you walk into staff meetings and it's joyous. It's joyful.
Yeah.
And it's because we see the evidence of the hand of the Lord working.
Amen.
We see new people who are coming to Arcade every weekend.
Yes.
Some people who belong to other fellowships or maybe have left for disagreements but a lot of people who have been disenchanted by or disenfranchised from the church.
Yeah.
And so, we have pursued somebody in this role because of our strong belief in the need for deeper community outside of being with hundreds and thousands of people in the same room once a week. So what are the outcomes from small groups, from gather groups at Arcade that you're looking for? Our belief in them, but when you start helping a team facilitate a gather group ministry, what are the outcomes that you're looking for out of gather groups?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
I'll start from the leadership perspective. I want to demystify what it means to successfully lead a gather group that can grow, that you can bleed with, cry with, all of that, reach your coworkers with the gospel, multiply the group with, and have it not be something that people think, oh, only experts do that. That can't be right.
Yeah.
That can't be right. Why? Well, because the church is still here after 2,000 years. You know what I mean? There's no way it takes a PhD to do that, right? And there's some sort of blowback and byproduct, I think, from living in the information age, is that it produces a kind of paralysis of analysis, right? To where you're afraid to go out on a limb and maybe lead a group for the first time that you think the Lord's calling you to, or what have you. But you're afraid you'll do it wrong, or you feel a lack of support there. And one of my big goals, and what I hope one of the outcomes is of me joining you guys, is I want to drain the tub of that anxiety. It needs to be really safe to ask questions about the basic questions. What is a gather group? Like, how does it fit in, like, even ecclesiologically, like, to what Arcade Church is, you know? At what point does the gather group leader feel like they can call in for backup or support if there's someone in the group that nobody knows really how to deal with and he's distracting or whatever? It needs to be the kind of thing where questions are expected, right? So that's one outcome. It needs to be demystified, right? I think number two is I want it to be clear. I want it to be clear at the same time. I want people to realize that we're doing something very ancient, even as we do like modern interpretations of what we see happening in the New Testament church. We're not treading new ground, though. We're looking at different ways to tread the same ground. And I want to give people the vocabulary to describe what they're seeing in their group and how to interact meaningfully with it. And then kind of coming away from the leadership perspective in particular, I think the third outcome is any neighborhood that there's a gather group, that neighborhood should be changing for the better. I remember one lady came to a gather group of ours. I mean, didn't know what the heck she was going to do because she had to move suddenly, like just 4 houses down. You know, but we were having this community group in this guy's backyard every Tuesday night, and it got to the point where like, burger or dog, you know what I mean? And we were just a mainstay, a fixture in that like housing edition. And pretty soon she just started coming over a lot, like just listening for some of the gospel discussions, you know. She had to move suddenly. Guess who were moving her? It was us. We just got a trailer and just made it happen. Because who else would it be, right? It just makes sense. And neighborhoods aren't the same when people interact, animated by the love of Jesus, but they're not weird and pushy and like creepy. You know, it's not come join our Christian thing. It's is our life in Jesus so compelling that you begin to want that, especially when you see that we're serious. So yeah, neighborhood transformation. It's like even then, I don't want to make it sound like it's harder than it is, but that is the inevitable outcome.
Well, one of the things that we talk about here is it's the book of Acts was, and everything following in the New Testament church, it was not flyers hanging off the side of the temple. It was not posting stuff in the market. It was just people walking through the everyday rhythms of their life, and and the Lord did stuff through that.
Man, you're so right. You look at
well, that wasn't me. That was Craig.
Oh.
I just stole it. You know.
Fair enough. Yeah,
but well quoted.
Yeah. It's Michael Scott and then the Wayne.
Exactly right. Yeah.
But no, that's exactly what Jesus is saying on the night he was betrayed. They'll know you're my disciples. What, by your awesome theology? Not really. Theology rightly applied, maybe. They'll know you're my disciples by your love. That's not that complex.
Yeah.
Do we take care of our own extremely well? You know, that's something we think about if we're doing like gospel and family and mission. Those 3 things really speaking to what the identity of a group is, that family aspect. The world needs to be able to look at not just the way we care for like outsiders, but even the way we care for ourselves and be like, do those people love each other? I can't argue with that. They might not be sold on the resurrection yet, but when they see resurrection power lived out, like consistently, not perfectly, that never happens, consistently, neighborhoods don't stay the same, not for long.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We weren't called to just be about ourselves. So
Yeah.
I love it, brother. So just on a little bit different track, this is somebody that texted in and said, obviously knows a little bit about Southern Seminary and where you came out of, and asked this very specific question. What was one of the most profound lessons that you learned in seminary under the leadership of Al Mohler?
Man, that actually is a really good question.
Why don't you, real quick, just for those who don't know, explain who Al Mohler is? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's well said.
Briefly.
Yep. It all started Southern Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, for a long time was drifting very left of theological center, and Al Mohler brought them back on track pretty quickly and pretty aggressively. That's the long story short. That's the greatest hits version. And
That was really brief. Good job.
Yeah.
I do what I can.
You did.
And I think the biggest thing any student who has their eyes open there learned from that man was being a liberal won't make non-Christians like you. It won't. Because eventually you're going to have to talk about, Jesus raising from the dead and the virgin birth and things of that nature. And you can't compromise with theological liberalism because it will take from you even more than you sacrifice later. And Mohler was really neat to watch because I think he believed that going into it. He performed the necessary sacrifice early, right? He did it early. And the response of faithfulness you saw from the Southern Baptist Convention needing and appreciating a flagship seminary that would train people unapologetically for gospel ministry, not perfectly, right? They have their own issues just like any institution. We could see that the fruit was well worth not just the labor, but the pain early on.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing I took away from his movie.
So, just in your life, from little coal to big coal, you've kind of like been like a ping pong table, theologically, in kind of what shaped you, and then you've kind of, finally gone down the chute, right?
Yes.
So tell me, how could you best describe, like, how has your perception of God changed through the years?
Wow. So I think one way, and this really, I think, will speak to my role here, hopefully. I think the default, everyone thinks of God as like an aged grandfather figure thinking somewhere in the sky. But if you look in the scriptures, it's actually a party going on in the next room. God has always existed in community. There was never a time that God was solitary. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit have been in loving union from before time immemorial. And so when I started to think, you look at the Getty images of what comes in your head when you think of God. When you got it away from an old dude thinking somewhere behind a galaxy to a dinner party going on in the next room with a lot of laughter. It's easier to have confidence in his integrity and his love for you because what a Trinitarian theology lets me say is God is love, and I'm not crossing my fingers. I'm not being cute. I'm not doing a theological sleight of hand. He is love. There was never a time where God was not loving someone outside him. That's the biggest difference.
That's great. That's really great. So I want to kind of just get to some of your personal stuff, just some curiosities that people have texted in, and we always like to ask. So I know we're getting close to time on this. So tell me, what's your favorite your all-time favorite movie. And yes, you got to narrow it down to one.
That's
all
no.
right?
Otherwise, the question
This
isn't
is
fun.
not a give me
Yes.
your top 5. This is what is your all-time favorite movie.
Mm.
And
What
if
I-
you say Sound of Music, this is over.
right. Yeah.
Telling you right now.
Yeah.
I don't know the churches who vote some.
I know we got principles here. All right?
That's fair.
So-
That's fair. I think I talked to Patrick, one of the elders, about this a while ago, like during part of the interview process. What I can tell you is this. If the one movie that if it's on, I will inevitably sit down and watch it is The Shawshank Redemption.
Nice.
It will always happen. I
Good
have
one.
no power over myself when that comes on. There are a
Same
lot
here.
of close seconds, but really?
Will Heather watch it with you? That's a big question.
Honey, have you seen The Shawshank Redemption? We did this thing where we had each other watch each other's movies, like, from growing up. She had me watch, like, Dirty Dancing and
okay.
stuff like that, and, like, all those 80s deals.
Can you do the moves?
What do you think?
Not now.
Right.
No, this is where you say, "Oh yeah, I could, but I
could-
can't.
yeah.
I'm hurt now. I'm playing
Yeah.
hurt." Yeah.
Sorry, bro. But no, I'd say The Shawshank Redemption is my favorite film.
Very cool. Love it. Love it. Love it.
And A Christmas Story.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why are we doing this? Sunday?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your absolute favorite song?
The best way I can I can tell you what I have listened to compulsively for the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
All right.
The hard rock band Disturbed did a cover of Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence,
Okay.
and it's fabulous.
Okay.
It got popular because they did it on the Conan O'Brien show, actually, and I think that performance ended up getting them a Grammy.
Oh wow.
And it's really cool because, if Simon and Garfunkel's version is about the dangers inherent in modernity of being alone, even though you're with people, right? That warning was ignored, right? Especially with the proliferation of iPhones, social media, things of that nature. The song describes us kneeling down to a neon god, praying to it, and almost every one of us at night are looking at our glaring phones next to our spouse.
Yeah.
Instead of connecting and talking about the day, right? And when Disturbed sings a song, there's a undertow of baleful, ashen rage that the warning was ignored. And it's incredibly powerful. And so I cannot stop listening to their version of it.
Okay. And who would you say is your all-time favorite band?
Favorite band, first answer is best answer. I would say the Beatles.
The Beatles. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that answer, I think.
I'm kind of a rocker. I've never heard of Disturbed. Is that more Metallica type,
It's pretty,
more Gaither type?
it's a lot of screaming.
Kind of thing.
It's a lot of screaming.
Oh, is it?
Yes, sorry, but it is. It's like, but it's odd because the lead singer is a classically trained
So
vocalist.
it's a band that screams, singing the sounds of silence.
Yes, the
that-
irony is
Got it.
very pungent there.
Okay. All right.
yep.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
When I get home,
Just
I'm
YouTube
YouTubing it.
It's unbelievable.
I'm YouTubing it.
It's
So,
unbelievable.
Parents, supervise your kids if they're watching.
That's fair.
I'll just watch The Shawshank Redemption. Thank you.
There you go.
I'll stick with Timothy Robbins.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Man, you made me forget my. No, I remember what I was going to ask. All right, so everybody who has the displeasure of working with me knows that I can rarely take anything seriously, and it seems that Craig's got into that hook with his with the Morning Stir and previously his 7 a.m. 7 p.m. show, telling jokes. So one test is tell me your favorite joke. You got to be able to get. You got to.
It's dark, but it's not too dark.
You've been listening to Craig's style of humor. I guess Arcadian style of humor because you're not coming up with them.
No,
They're sending them to
I'm
you.
just I'm just reading them.
You're the
Oh
messenger.
man.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so get the people of Arcade to laugh.
Oh man. All right. It's just a straight statement. It's not even. There's not a question per se in the joke, but it's this: buy a man a plane ticket, fly him for a day. Push a man out of a plane, he'll fly for the rest of his life.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
feel like I should cry.
Pretty morbid. Did I mention I'm an Enneagram 4?
No, you
A really
did not.
big sad sack.
Wow. Okay, well, you can, for those who aren't watching now, you can tell that on.
Yeah, I'm going on
Friday.
Morning Stir tomorrow for that one. You
Wow. All right. Well,
know? Man.
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Hey, can I get back to
Yes,
can
you
I get
can.
back to some adult talk
You
here?
sure
All
can.
right. So hey, I just want to know.
Yeah.
Let's just say that the congregation. I'm hoping and praying that direction that we affirm you this weekend.
Sure.
And house sells in Minnesota. You guys are making the move, and just for the sake of picking a date,
Yes.
let's just say that your first day on the job is December 1st. I have no idea what day of the week that is.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
December 1st. You get your office unpacked, get settled in, get to know the staff on December 1st. December 2nd, what are you going to do?
So I get the office unpacked December 1st, December 2nd. What do I do? Honestly, that's when I'm going to have my first lunch with a gather group leader just to find out what it's been like for him. That's something I'm so eager to do here. And this is all while I'm getting to know and like kind of lean into the staff too. But I want to know the stories of people who've been on the ground here doing it for a while and just pick their brain. What have you loved about it? What's been stressful? Like what's biggest win, biggest loss? You know, I just want to let them share the story of what it's been like to minister in Sacramento, and I want to listen because A, I want to get to know them, but B, they have information I need. I haven't lived here. I'm going to be doing everything I'm doing at a knowledge deficit for a while, and there's no way around it. But you can minimize that by taking advantage of the experiences and stories of those around you, and that's day 2, I guess. That's what's happening. People's phones start ringing, and it's me wanting to have coffee with them and just listen to them talk.
Great.
So for better, I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's what I'm looking most forward to.
I'm just curious, Cole. What question should we be asking you?
Are you talking about right today, or as people
Right now.
get to know him?
Or maybe this Sunday. What question do you want to be asked that we haven't asked either tonight or Sunday that you want the congregation of Arcade Church to know?
To know about community or just me in general or anything?
Anything.
All right. Ask how I'm doing, because I promise I won't lie to you.
How are you doing?
How are you doing? And you can say, how are you really doing? Just because, I mean, it's there's something very refreshing about a pastor that can level with you, fully relying on Jesus' grace in the moment for whatever's going on. But I thoroughly want people to ask how I'm doing and mean it. Because pastoral ministry can be isolating, and it would be a hideous irony for the pastor who's plugging in and jumpstarting community to be isolated in the role. I just don't need pastors checking in on me. I'm a sinner saved by grace like everybody else. And we have a 7-week-old, and we're sleeping 4 hours a night right now. So ask how I'm doing. And I won't lie. That's my rule.
Okay.
I will not lie about that.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
We'll test it, of course. But still,
Yeah, we'll ask Heather.
That's
Yeah, we'll ask Heather.
That's fair.
How's Cole doing?
Yeah. So I really, do you have anything else that you want us to ask you?
No, I don't think so. That tell me how great do you think I am? No. Stop us some more. Quit. No, I have no questions.
Okay.
Well, before you close us out, I forgot to mention something in the early part.
Okay.
So if that's all right. I just want to let you know, Arcade family, we didn't just show up and start having a conversation, 3 guys. But once again, and this is very true of COVID, is that there are people in this room right now who are donating their time, they're volunteering to be behind the camera, to let you have this experience. And, they would be embarrassed if I mentioned their name, but they're in the room right now, and they're up in the sound booth, they're in the switcher room, they're behind the cameras, and I'm very grateful for them.
Amen.
Because this has taken a significant amount of time. They were here last night to get the cameras set up, and they're here tonight behind the cameras going. And so when you see a person who's a tech person, they've got a black t-shirt with white letters on, or they're walking around moving cable or moving cameras, would you just pause for a moment and go up to them and say thank you?
Amen.
We see what you're doing, and we're very grateful for that, because this is a huge sacrifice. We didn't just show up and turn the lights on.
Yeah.
There were people well before we even showed up getting everything ready. So, and I forgot to mention that the early part.
Oh,
So
that's
sorry,
great.
I didn't mean that.
I'm glad you did.
Okay.
I'm grateful too. So, Cole, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Cole.
Heather,
It's an absolute pleasure.
to Heather, we know that you're watching with little Margot, and we
Yeah.
say thank you to you for letting us have Cole. For we're stealing you quite a bit this week, and Heather is going to dinners and schmoozing people too. So that's not lost on us. That well, we did that with a month-old too. And
Yeah, you
it's,
did.
It's,
Yeah.
it's a new environment. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And Arcade, thanks for sending in questions and participating in this and watching this. And if you're not watching this when we stream, thanks for tuning in after that. Like Craig said, we are going to call the church to affirm Cole Harper as pastor of adult ministries this Sunday. He's going to answer a few questions with us this style on the platform. Well, not on the platform. We'll be in front of it because of the whole foot thing. But, it's our gift to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But then after that, we will also, he'll preach for us. He'll take us through the Word, a great passage of Scripture, and then following that, our elders are gonna ask you to affirm Cole as one of our pastors here at Arcade Church. So you're gonna be able to do that by ballot here on campus in the 10 o'clock courtyard service. But if you can't be here this weekend, we have thought about you, and you can actually call the church office tomorrow, 916-972-1617, and you can speak with our staff and cast your vote that way. Or you can do it by emailing info@arcadechurch.com with your name and your vote, and we will get you squared away. Obviously, we're voting on Sunday, so you call in or email Monday, and it's just going to be a call or an email. All right, so that's right. You're going to want to do that Sunday or before. So thank you guys for being a part of this.
That's right.
I'm so grateful for you, Arcade, and your
Means a lot.
participation, and I hope that we can see many of you on Sunday morning as we dive into the Word with Cole. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.